Good morning and welcome to Talking Point here on WESN, the content capital. My name is Keaton Shaw. Very happy that you're with us once more as we continue the conversations of the latest happenings here in our beloved twin island republic, that is Trinidad and Tobago. This morning it's a bit gloomy, not because of rain, but because of Saharan dust. So with those who have breathing disabilities, I urge you to take all your precautions. But even so, it's affecting everyone, so please be careful out there today. But this morning on the program, a few topics that we'd like to get into, new topics that we have not truly discussed as yet. And in doing so, let me introduce my co-host and my colleague alongside me, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Keaton. And just before we get into all of the heavy politics and economics, I just thought it's something to warn the population about with regards to COVID. Yes, I know we're kind of treating it as though it's over, except it's not actually over, except it kind of is over. I have heard of people to get reinfected from COVID, and we know that the transmission it's still going around. So just want to remind people to still, wear sensible, take whatever precautions necessary. Even if you've been vaccinated and have COVID before, you could apparently get it again. I know of a couple of cases. It has not necessarily happened to me directly, but I do think it's something that we need to remind ourselves of, because ideally, if natural immunity and vaccinations would have kept us 100% safe, this thing would have burnt itself out. But as it is going, if we could get reinfected, as the doctors have warned, and it going into an endemic stage, it will remain with us probably for some time. So just be careful with what you're doing, because unfortunately, citizens of TNT are still dying to this. We are now 50 deaths away from 4,000. But as it stands, I understand life has to go on. We have to be practical to some extent, but just watch out for yourself and your family, your friends. Be careful.
Well, the Ministry of Health is also urging all those to get the pediatric COVID-19 vaccines for the age group between 5 years and 11 years old. The vaccines are close to expiration, but they're urging parents to get their children vaccinated before a new variant of COVID-19 comes about. And by no means is that too far-fetched. There is a high possibility of that taking place, though we've reopened up to the extent that we have. Bear in mind, it's still a virus that we're dealing with, and it's still a major biological threat. Everything, as human beings, evolves, so viruses will always get stronger and harder, not only to detect, but to treat. Anyway, Sean, also before we get into the conversation, I just wanted your opinion on a particular topic. I think I mentioned to you off-air in relation to the students being stabbed in the Williamsville Secondary School. The student could be charged with criminal offenses. Some newspapers are reporting that they are already charged. The schoolgirl who stabbed her fellow classmate, schoolmate, has been expelled. Now, a lot of questions have been raised, obviously, over this, but do you think, because at one point they were doing it, I believe it stopped, I don't know if it continued, that there need to be security checks at gates now for students entering schools? Because I'm reading another article where a student was actually caught with narcotics on the school compound. We heard in Tobago recently about a student threatening to shoot up a school. You can't really have metal detectors at schools, because even mathematical instruments are pure metal, so it's very difficult. But do you need to have security guards now stationed at school and search every student's bag and every student's person?
So I think that would be impractical, unfortunately. It also would be somewhat of a negative. Think about it. If you put these kids basically under search, you're treating them like criminals. And then, of course, I am sure some schools will not bother with as stringent security measures, and then you might get accusations of some kind of racism, classism, whatever. But basically, it's usually going to be impractical because, depending on the size of the school, I can't remember how much students attended when I was at Fatima, but you're talking 4 classes per year for basically 7 years at around 30 to 40 students a class. It's a lot of it's a lot of guys, it's a lot of boys you have to search, and then vice versa for girls, which will become more complicated depending on if you have enough female security officers to do searches as opposed to males, etc., etc. I think it's a catch-22 that we are faced with because ideally you would not only have programs in place to rehabilitate, but the situation that we're in, the society is in, is going to be a stable one. So if a student does something really egregious, which you could argue the slashing of a fellow student's face is, them being punished is not necessarily going to have any negative side effects beyond, well, you're being punished and you have to deal with those negative consequences to you. But what we're seeing, because it's not just in Trinidad, we're seeing it in Jamaica and other islands, and you could argue in other countries as well. The stress of the overall situation is being translated and is trickling down and affecting society in various ways. So we see it in murder-suicides with couples, we see it in crime, we've seen some horrific videos for some petty crimes with some gentlemen being shot, losing their life over a gold chain in front of a bar and what have you. And we're seeing school violence. So my thing is, we could expel this student, but eventually there are going to be more. And at some point, if you cut off their opportunities to have some kind of life, you're basically just feeding them into the criminal system. You're just basically, you're planting seeds for new criminals because to them, what are they going to do now that they don't have an education, they can't get a proper job, and they have a record?
But then you've made an argument against my question, and I respect it and I understand. But then at the same time, it seems as though you made an argument for it or an argument against your argument, because you're absolutely right. In expelling the students, there may be more to come. That is the thing that I'm a bit concerned about. I don't think expelling a student is going to help a situation. As you pointed out, it's what's next for that student. What opportunities are next, and rightfully so. But then at the same time, what proactive measures do we take? What proactive measures do we implement? It's a very difficult situation because I believe that we're going to continue to see instances of these happening. We're constantly, every week, there's a new school fight that's taking place, being filmed, put on social media. Violence stemming from wherever. However, how do you stop that now? Especially now that students are becoming so bold to arm themselves, even carry drugs into the school system, which is nothing necessarily new. But it's becoming more and more common.
So I can tell you it's nothing necessarily new. And even in my secondary school, those who don't know, I did witness someone being armed in my school. You can't necessarily tell the intent and the heart of an individual because I witnessed someone who was armed. It's not as though there was a stabbing. It was unused. So I don't even know why he had it, what it was meant for, because there's speculation that the girl had the knife as a means of defense, of self-preservation, because she felt threatened, whether it was bullying, we don't know, whether it was in school, on the road, I don't know for sure. The thing is, yes, it's very difficult to get away from punishing her, because you have to have consequences. If you're too light on her, then it's just going to encourage more of the same. And if she didn't necessarily have bad intentions, it will encourage those with bad intentions. Hey, she got away, so I could do it too. But then now, this is where you have to treat the situation as a more complex, or in a more complex way, because you do have to have a plan. And that tends to be the problem with a lot of societies, but in TNT in particular. What is your plan? Okay, I get it. We punish her. She's expelled. What is your plan to allow students like this to not then resort to a life of crime? And that's something that, there's a lot of fine details with that. And you could argue that some of the institutions which are either failing or have been shut down were meant to be part of the response. And again, some of those institutions, accusations of abuse, and I get it, it's real. There's a lot of dominoes to this that are just falling. As one falls, the next one falls, and we're seeing the weaknesses of the systems that we have. and we're not prepared to deal with this escalation of stress that's causing more violent crime because of the pandemic, because of inflation from the war in Ukraine, because of all of the host of other problems that we're having right now. So it's not an easy thing. The thing though is, I don't even know if we have the resources financially to implement metal detectors at all these schools.
I don't think it's practical to implement metal detectors at schools.
So, and then searching all of their bags, you might literally have a problem where just to get the kids into the school might be a challenge, because you can't tell them, well, you know, you all have to come in on a roster time so it flow. Like, you're gonna get, you know, a few hundred students all at once at the gates. How many security you're gonna have to search if you have one security? Because I mean, most schools, think about it. How much security officers do they really have, right?
Well, yeah.
And then if you put all of them, if you have multiple security officers, you put all of them to do these searches. Well, then, well, you know, I would expect the point of having multiple officers is to be able to cover your school, but during the hour, 2, maybe 3 hours to get everybody, well, maybe not 3 hours, but the hour to get everybody in, you know, the rest of the school isn't covered. So you're kind of defeating the purpose. Somebody could sneak in through a hole in the back foot wall, and then what's the point?
Well, in my time as well, I also witnessed such instances happening. So you're not the only one. That tells you this is, it's an ongoing situation. It's just getting worse. So we need to find measures in order to try and prevent this from happening.
I think this also goes in line with trying to figure out crime. And then I have to go back to, you know, the examples set by our leaders, and particularly the Minister of Youth Development. I'm just saying these things trickle down. Right?
Well,
but then also how the entire leadership deals with crime, it trickles down into schools, and it further exacerbates that situation.
Well, how often can you say we can depend on our leaders? But let's not get into that debate. But for now, let's pause on this conversation. I'm sure people will express their opinions later.
I mean, the country hasn't fallen apart completely yet. So
we're on the edge, Sean. We're on the edge. We haven't fallen apart. I think the will of the people, and I think just people having no choice but to carry on, push forward, move forward. I think that's what's kept us floating thus far. Let's take a break now here on the program. When we return, we'll continue the conversations this morning, and later on we'll share with you the question of the day. Stay tuned to Talking Point. You're watching The Content Capital.
Noah Powder put into a dangerous area, back of the net. It's 1-0 already.
Our Soca Warriors have emerged victorious against Bahamas. Now, they prepare to take on their next opponent. On Monday, 13th June, tune in to WESN Content Capital for live coverage of TNT versus St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Come show support for our Soca Warriors at the Hazley Crawford Stadium. Monday, 13th June, TNT versus St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Kick off at 7 p.m. Let's build back TNT's football.
Granddad?
Huh?
What has TNT given to the world?
Well, we invented a beautiful sport of good racing. We showed everyone how to go low with limbo. And we brought steel pan and soca to the world.
Wait, wasn't the Zinger invented in 1984?
Yup, and I couldn't be prouder.
Get the double-breaded, extra juicy, 100% Trini KFC Zinger, only at KFC.
Did you know that 1 in 4 children has an undetected eye problem? Their vision can change dramatically every year, from the blackboard to digital screens. 80% of learning starts with what our eyes perceive. Keep your child's future in focus at Ferreira Optical. Get complete eyewear for kids starting at only $695. Come into Ferreira Optical today. Conditions apply.
in these COVID times, things are a little different. You may have some skepticism when it comes to going to the hospital or going into the doctor because of crowds or because of so many people being present. We are now in the world of telemedicine.
Telemedicine is the innovation of using technology to treat patients at a distance.
Zakia is here today. She's going to show us a little bit of what she does as part of her at-home exercise routine. What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
It may seem like the hardest thing to do right now, but we all need each other to wear a mask, wash our hands, watch our physical distance, and stay at home. We need you safe. Together we can make the difference. Together we can curb the spread of COVID-19. So let's be responsible in our actions. The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. So I'll just preview the question of the day to give you some time to think, so that after the 9 o'clock news you can call in and share with us your opinions and thoughts. Do you think that students should be checked, should be searched before entering a school compound? And when I say searched, I mean their possessions, their bags and lunch kits, as well as their person. You can call in later and share with us your opinion here on the program. Now, Sean Michael Small, the Beetham Sewer Pipeline Project.
Yeah, this was an interesting statement made by technically the Minister of Trade and Industry standing in for the Minister of Public Utilities. And was she also standing in for the head of government business at that time as well? I'm not entirely sure. So she, the minister...
She was acting leader of government
acting
business.
leader of government. So she was responding to a question on behalf of the Minister of Public Utilities with regards to the project for the Beetham Gardens sewer pipeline, basically the repair. And her response, the opposition wanted a breakdown, and she gave a breakdown, and in the breakdown there was an interesting line item that caught all of our attention here at Talking Point on WSN. So let's play the clip, and then, you know, if you miss it, we'll point it out, but see if you could spot, you know, what doesn't fit, what doesn't belong.
The oddball.
Yeah.
To the Minister of Public Utilities.
Acting Leader Government of Business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, the Water and Sewerage Authority has advised that the repairs to the Beetham Gardens sewer pipeline project, which entailed the rerouting of 626 feet of 44 inches ductile iron pipe along Main Street and CCC Boulevard, together with the installation of 3 manholes, 19 feet, 21 feet, and 26 feet in depth, respectively, were implemented over a 6-month period from October 15th, 2021 to April 10th, 2022. The cost incurred for the repairs, inclusive of road restoration, was $14,435,638.90, broken down as follows. Rental of heavy equipment, including excavators, backhoes, dump trucks, hired cranes, trash pumps, water trucks, $7,720,024.11. Labor cost for employees, 3 shifts working 24/7 for 120 days, $3,710,558.79. Materials, including materials for restoration of road and pavement on Main Street and CCC Boulevard, repair, rebuild drain on CCC Boulevard and Main Street, replacement of fence and gate at Beetham Gardens Primary School, excavate and mobilize approximately 85,000 cubic feet of river wash for backfill, replace sewer connections for Beetham Gardens Primary School, HDC pensioners' quarters and Anglican church, and repairs to CCC wall and adjoining drain on the eastern side. 455,000, sorry, and $56, and miscellaneous consisted mainly of wages paid to workers employed on the project from the Beetham community, $550,000. Thank you.
Now, if you blinked, you might have missed it. Because even I knew it was coming and I kind of half missed it. Because earlier on in the breakdown, there's a line item for salary. 3 shifts, working 24 hours a day.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
For 120 days.
Right, and they give you the breakdown. How much millions it was? I can't remember.
For the labor cost of employees, 3 shifts working 24/7 for 120 days, the total cost was $3,710,000. $558.79.
So you have 3 shifts working. So I assume, you know, whatever the shift is, that cost will cover it. And then right at the end, miscellaneous employment.
No. The actual
workers, local workers.
Labeling of the line item was miscellaneous items consisting of wages paid to workers on the project from the Beetham community.
But miscellaneous.
$550,000.
$550,000. Miscellaneous workers. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm not sure if I ever heard the term miscellaneous workers.
No, miscellaneous items consisting of wages paid.
I never heard of workers being considered as miscellaneous items.
You know, the English language is a funny thing. So in lieu of currency, did they pay them with material? Is that what that line items mean?
I know you can have a job where you do miscellaneous work, but I would assume, particularly with construction, if you have, you know, that'll be part of payroll. If you have one guy in the first shift, you'll have another guy to replace him because whatever his miscellaneous duties were. I'm pretty sure if you're going to have 3 shifts, 24 hours to keep the work going, you're not going to have like a skeleton crew at night and you're doing the bare minimum. Then what's the point of having the night shift? What's the point of bringing out some workers to work at night if you're not just going to go full steam ahead to try to get this done as soon as possible? Because I remember this is the sewer leak, right? With the sewage that people were living in with the smell and the unsanitary conditions for months without any, I don't know, appearance by the minister who got wet last time. Let's just put it that way. So $550,000 for miscellaneous. I mean, it's hard not to think. I have to ask the question, you know, why is that not included? Because it's local workers. Why is that not included in the salaries?
I will tell you why. First of all, just to let you know, this $14,430,000, so $14.5 million is the most that WASA has spent on a single project in over 2 years, right? This particular project, right? Secondly, I appreciate the fact that the acting leader of government business gave a breakdown. I appreciate that. Often we ask for information. I, however, would have loved to have known the contractors and those companies who the rental of heavy equipment and whatnot came from. I'm just saying.
I mean, so you saw where Senator Mark, I cut it for time, but to be fair, Senator Mark did ask that as a follow-up.
And what was the response?
The Senate, it's the Senate President, right? Or Vice President.
Acting, yeah.
Basically just said, nah, that's not a valid question, move on.
I don't understand how that is not a valid question.
And to his credit, Senator Mark did not kick up a fuss. He was just confused, tried to ask, well, how is this, you know, I'm paraphrasing here. How is this not a valid question? You know, something along the lines of, well, I'm merely asking. He repeated the question because I guess it's so basic. It's difficult to try to figure out what's going on. I mean, I'm asking who were the contractors?
Now, Credit to Mr. Mark for not kicking up a fuss, simply because what's the point? We've seen this multiple times before.
Yes, and kicking up a fuss will not.
Yeah.
Not
it's not going to make a difference. In fact,
right.
if he kicks up a fuss, most likely he'll be, excused from the parliament.
What
for the
I
rest of
don't
the session.
understand is why. I mean, she's already acting head of government business, speaking on behalf of the Minister of Public Utilities. How much could anybody really falter if she says, I don't have that information? She's reading the breakdown off of her phone. She could easily get away. If it was Marvin Gonzalez, that would be different. But she could have easily gotten away with, well, I just don't have that information for you. So I think in this case, the Senate Vice President or whoever, that was ridiculous. I don't know how else to put it. His response to a basic question is pretty ridiculous.
Now, I agree with you. It would have been better to say I don't have that information right now and then release that information via release or respond to that question the following week in Senate. But back to this line item of miscellaneous.
Yeah, it does. The question doesn't even cover that. Yeah. It's not even to cover. The answer would not have anything to do, well, I assume, with depending on how the 500 miscellaneous items.
To that item of $550,000 for, and let me just get the exact line. Miscellaneous items consisting of wages paid to workers on the project from the Beetham community.
Again, why is that? It's wages. Why is that not with? Why won't you just lump it in with salaries?
So then my obvious question is, who is this $550,000 paid to for protection? Because clearly to me this is protection money.
I mean, we're asking. We don't know for sure. We're asking.
But we will never know for sure.
We will never know for sure.
Right?
And I can't even think of an alternative unless it was really just a very, very, very poor attempt to win brownie points. You see, we employ people in Beetham as part of the project.
Which is good, by the way.
Which is good, but we're not, listen, this is not like, we employed locals in Alaska, or we employed locals in some farm. This is like in the heart of the country. I would think just by default, you will get some people out of Beetham. Like, is it? I understand that Beetham Gardens has a stigma and that it's very difficult for a lot of people to get jobs coming out of there because, employers assume the stereotype applies for everybody coming out of there. But at the end of the day, I would like to think that it's not a milestone. It's almost like if we've never hired people from Beetham Gardens before to work construction for the government. So we're breaking barriers here. I hope it's not just some poor PR attempt.
No, I don't think it is. And I think
because it's its own line item.
The reason why it's its own line item, I believe, would be for accounting purposes. Because if you pay that in one chunk, that $550,000, or you brought it out, you can't necessarily put it under a labor and cost of employees. And the miscellaneous items, again, how was it paid? Was it paid for in cash? Was it paid for via government check? Because a lot of questions over that one line item. And it's the smallest of all the line items, $550,000. But again, if you
it's the most conspicuous.
If you label it that way, to me, it just comes across as, and by the way, before people say, well, because it's Beetham, Keaton, you're making that illusion. No, it's not because it's Beetham. I think it's anywhere in Trinidad now that there's a government project taking place. To me, that comes across as protection money.
I mean, technically speaking, we had the equipment that was burned by the arsonists,
By the what, sorry?
Arsonists.
Okay, just making sure.
Right?
Yeah.
For pieces of heavy machinery, including a steamroller, I'm not sure if they were excavators, but for them, around $1 million in value, basically gone while in the process of doing repairs to a road in badly needed repairs in the countryside. So you do have to ask, so when WASA has to repair the sinkhole by Cocorite, was there a line item of workers hired from Cocorite? When they have to repair a road in St. Anne's, is there a line item of workers hired in St. Anne's? Mm-hmm. And what is the problem is, history tells us that when you have things like miscellaneous items and you lack any more details, well, that's generally how you're going to hide things that you want hidden. Now, With this project, you made a point where this is the most amount of money WASA has spent on any single project since...
For the last 2 years.
For the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So basically,
At least.
The pandemic. Mm-hmm. One of the things that they might not want us to realize, it's nothing necessarily illegal. It could be that everything done was legal. It's just that the management of the costs on this project might have ballooned. Whether it is because the problem was allowed to fester and worsen over time and it caused the repairs to have to cost more, or because the attempt to repair it had mistakes were made and it caused cost overruns. So that could be something that, it's not necessarily illegal, they just don't want to take the pounding for it, because 40 million is not a small amount of money these days to fix what should have been, well, a sewer leak. You don't expect it to cost that much. So
no, actually, sewer leaks are very, very expensive to repair. Very expensive to repair.
To be fair, yes.
This is a sewer line for an entire community, not just one household.
Yeah, but I guess somebody might have asked the question, why 14 million?
Well, of course, and that's why I said it's better to have an understanding of the breakdown of all those involved.
So ironically, we get a breakdown which is supposed to be pointing us or putting us on the road for more transparency, except this breakdown just leaves us with more questions. In more questions than it might have been better not to give us a breakdown in this case. And that's the other thing. That's what I fear. The ineptitude now of who decided what information to release has now put us in a position where the government might say, well, you see, we gave them some crumbs and they didn't like crumbs, so we'll give them nothing next time. It's like, no. Because it's halfway transparency. You can't tell us, well, hey, we have this miscellaneous item. That doesn't tell us anything. Where's the transparency in that?
Now, I will not go as far as to suggest, okay, maybe it was better not to give us the breakdown.
No. But my point is I'm warning against that kind of thinking.
No, I know. My thing is that we often question, we often ask for information. Finally, we've been given information. We're satisfied at the fact that we've been given information, but not satisfied at the details of the information. You gave an entire breakdown with 4 line items for the entire project. I'm satisfied that you're willing to share information, not satisfied with how you've presented it or what you've presented. So, I guess you have to give credit where credit is due, but at the same time, you have to, call out the discrepancies, as we say. Overall, that miscellaneous line items, maybe, Sean, maybe you and I are wrong. And if somebody would correct us in terms of contracts within the construction or labor industry, for such, maybe they could explain to us exactly what is meant by, but from the looks of it, I can't see any reasonable explanation.
It's miscellaneous items for wages.
Which I don't understand, because the definition of miscellaneous is of items or people gathered or considered together of various types from different sources.
Right, but it's one source, and technically you say wages.
Yeah.
So what does miscellaneous items for wages mean?
Not one clue.
Because if it was miscellaneous expenses, it might include, well, it probably won't, it probably still won't include wages, because you have a line item for wages. You have a line item for salary, unless there's a legal difference between the definition of salary and wages, or an accounting difference that I am unaware of. So I think ultimately, it did not help that the Vice President of the Senate basically squashed what you and I would consider a basic follow-up question posed by Senator Mark. It makes the situation look worse than it has to look. And I think ultimately, if I am the person in charge of communicating this information, this breakdown, deciding what to include on this breakdown, how much detail to go into this breakdown, I could have a line item that says salaries, for 3 shifts, 7 days a week, for however many days. That's detailed. Notice with the repair, they included the gates for the school. They included the pension compound. They included all of those other items had a lot of detail. to a professional communicator, I think it would be very obvious if I had something that just said miscellaneous items for wages. After having a line item for salaries, it's going to cause questions to be asked. And
So-
I am in the, for lack of a better way to put it, for government, I'm in the confidence business, I'm in the perspective business, I'm in the managing expectations business.
So I'm just simply going to ask, you know, I believe that that line item singled out could be deemed as protection money. Whether or not I'm wrong for seeing that, somebody will correct me. But at the same time, from what I'm thinking to myself, miscellaneous items for wages, I would assume it could be expenses other than what is agreed as your compensation or your regular salary. So that might be NIS contributions, that might be health surcharge contributions, or that may even be items
I mean,
such
again,
as...
is that technically...
Well, for
the
accounting purposes...
Right, but for accounting purposes, shouldn't that just be put under salaries?
Well, again, not necessarily, because you're going to break it down at the end of the day for tax purposes, aren't you?
Yeah, but again, like depending on how it's layered, certain taxes will see certain other things, right? Fine. But really and truly, if that's all it was, it would be under the line item for wages, or it should be.
It could even
It should be.
Could it even be deemed as overtime? Because they put...
No, that
they put
again, that should be.
3 shifts for 24/7
First
for
of all,
120
then
days.
first of all, if you have 3 shifts for 24/7, right, you're not planning to have overtime because you have full-time workers covering.
Unless one worker
you
from
know.
the other wage bracket,
Right,
other
you
shift
could
bracket,
you
you
could
know?
have a double shift, right?
Right.
But again, that will all go into salaries. All of those things are still, so to pull it out, you're basically, let's say you're right, then you're just basically saying, hey, I don't know how to present information without shooting myself in the foot because I am basically causing members of the public to question things that don't need to be questioned, only because of how I presented it. It
should have been stated like miscellaneous items for wages, and under this bracket we included overtime, NIS, health surcharge.
Even if you wanted to separate it like that, you will include it after the salary, the main salary line item. Why is it at the end? The implications, and yes, you might say I'm pulling at straws, but the implications really and truly suggest that this is not, that these wages, is something else. It's not treating with the normal shift workers that she started the breakdown with, right?
I agree with you in terms of information. Like I said, I said it before during the segment, I'll say it again. I agree in terms of information, in terms of presentation, and in terms of more details. I'm just trying to look at it all around. That's all.
No, I understand, but at the end of the day, we complain about the communication by politicians. The opposition has their faults, the government has their faults. This is now a government example of, again, the structure, it's not being effective. And you might say I'm nitpicking. Ladies and gentlemen, this is basic. These are basic things that you should not be getting wrong. It's like having a police officer driving a police car and he doesn't know how to drive. You would expect that a police officer behind the wheel of a police car to know how to drive, right?
Unless they're going down the wrong side of the highway.
It's so basic. You know, it's like having an office worker that doesn't know how to write or type. Not how to speak in English or foreign language, but literally how to use a keyboard or a pen. Basic things on communication. When I am trying to deliver information, depending on my intention, I need to structure it in a way so that it is clear and effective what I am saying. And by having your first item or one of your first items being salaries and your last item being miscellaneous items for wages paid to the people of the community, that does not look good. It just doesn't, right? Because it leaves us with questions that we have no indication. Everything else is pretty well detailed, and I'm very happy for it. And that is very undetailed. Very, very simple.
Anyway, I'll tell you what. let's pause on that for now. Again, after the 9 o'clock news, you're free to call in and share your thoughts and opinions. You know, correct Sean and I if we're wrong in any way. It could mean anything from protection money, or it could mean anything from these are payments we had to make for NIS, health surcharge, as well as overtime. It could be anything.
So, you want to hear another possibility? It could be other means of compensation that isn't dealing with things like NIS or health surcharge. And by other means, less ethical means of compensation. And I'm not even going to criminal things, but just the way how the money is spent and what it's spent on to compensate. I don't know, because again, there's no breakdown for that item. There's a breakdown for everything else, not for that.
Folks, let's take a break here now on Talking Point. When we return, not much time left before the 9 o'clock news, but we'll briefly dive into our third topic for the morning. I'll just give you your opinions very quickly. Stay tuned to the program.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN, the Content Capital. Okay, continuing the conversations with just about 7 minutes left before news on the hour. This basically surrounds the Office of the Procurement Regulator. It hasn't been fully operationalized as yet, and I'm not entirely sure what the government is waiting on, because this now deals with a story focusing on a technical glitch between UDCOT and TSTT, TSTT being the technical supplier for UDCOT in terms of their online bidding process. And it's in relation to the Port of Spain General Hospital, in which a technical glitch caused Udicot's e-tender platform to introduce a third bidder on the Port of Spain General Hospital Central Block project days after the bidding was closed. It's been indicated that the submissions were due to be filed by 4 p.m. on May 20th, and on May 23rd, this particular company submitted a bid, which, by the way, Sean, by the way, was significantly lower than the two other bids.
Right. So, from what I understand, because I had different, I thought the story was going in different directions. From what I understand, the error basically, it was in mid-upload, I believe, and there was a disruption in the telecommunication service, and it caused the bid to, I think, to the uploader, it might have said uploaded, but to Udicot, they didn't potentially receive the bid before the deadline. So and then later on, Udicot received the bid days later, as you said, significantly lower. So first of all, there are, unfortunately, and this is just the nature of the game, once you see that a bid comes in days later and significantly lower, you have to ask, is this bid in good faith? Or was this bid structured after being privy to the information of the other two bids that were on time? And this is why you have to respect the deadlines. Normally, unfortunately, the issue was because there was a disruption in connectivity during the upload process, that is the waves from TSTT. And just by the way, Keaton, something like that is my greatest fear when dealing with government e-platforms and e-services. That I'm going to upload something and it's going to say, yeah, it's uploaded, and then there's a glitch and something goes wrong with the process. Or even worse, it tells me that it's not uploaded.
It's not.
But I can't do anything about it. I have no recourse because it's not allowing me to re-upload.
But Sean, listen to this explanation. Udicot asked TSTT for a written explanation. TSTT indicated that it was, and I quote directly now from the explanation, directly attributes this to a temporary disruption in internet connectivity during the upload process. The upload process ended on the 20th of May at 4 o'clock. 4:05 p.m., you saw two individuals tendered. Two companies, that is. May 23rd, a third individual now enters the race. TSTT says directly to a drop in disruption in internet connectivity. But then Udicot states the internet connectivity disruption was not on the side of TSTT. It was on the side of the entity, the third bidder, who had that disruption. And that the service provider for that third company was not TSTT. So how? Now, I could be wrong.
How could TSTT even?
It's not even that. It's just that. So 3 days without internet.
Here's the thing. No. I didn't even think it's 3 days without internet. So originally, as you started just now, I was thinking, well, the only way that the contractor could actually, on a practical level, affect this in a fraudulent manner would essentially be to disrupt their internet on their end while they're trying to upload it, right? But I thought TSTT is reporting that there was a problem with their service, and in my mind, I'm like, well, no, the company, the contractor can't disrupt TSTT's, that TSTT service or someone in TSTT is going to cause the disruption for them. That conspiracy is a bit too far. However, what you're telling me now is TSTT is reporting, no, it wasn't on our end. It was closer to the source where this happened. And now the question is, was it the telecommunication service provider for the contractor, or did it come from the contractor itself? Now, I'm not an IT expert. I think depending on the situation, it might be as simple as if you pull the plug to TSTT, it might look as though, well, there's a disruption.
Well, TSTT have also responded saying that there was no technical glitch on its e-tender platform, which directly contradicts what Udicot stated that TSTT had written to them. Right? The statement from TSTT says TSTT wishes to affirm that there was no technical glitch on its e-tender platform which resulted in our client Udicot inability to see one of the submissions. A due diligence assessment conducted by TSTT's ICT infrastructure and cybersecurity engineers revealed Udicot's inability to access its bid submission was caused by a temporary disruption in the internet connectivity with the vendor's internet provider.
Right, so that is in line, that makes sense. If it is closer to the vendor's end and not TSTT or Udicot's end, well then, yes, TSTT by all rights can say, it's not our fault, it's down there. It was on their side. It was closer to their part of the process.
But then clearly Udicot miscommunicated initially then.
Potentially. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a technical thing, right? Udicot is just, we have connectivity issues.
Come on.
No, I don't think the corporate comms manager is going to be an IT person that's going to directly speak to TSTT's technical guy. He's going to be speaking to a corporate comms person from TSTT. There's going to be lost in translation.
Send them a written explanation.
There's going to be stuff lost in translation because the corporate... Well, listen, this is probably, again, an example of poor communications on something that should be basic.
Anyway, at the end of the day, folks, we have to break for news on the hour. I'll just say...
Listen. Basically, two things happen here. A government system broke down, or potentially a vendor did something they was not supposed to do. And even if everything was above board, then agreeing to taking this late tender, ethically speaking, that's a problem. Even if there's no fault to anybody involved, ethically speaking, that's a problem.
Well, I'd like to see, I can't wait to hear who's actually going to be awarded the contract. I could see a court battle ensuing. Based off of that.
But then there's the other question is, why is it always the lowest bid? The lowest bid is not always the best bid. In part because sometimes the lowest bid is made by a contractor who's cutting so much cost. What you get from that bid is not what you're asking for.
And I think that is a good point that you've raised, and it's something that we should stress on. Though the third bid was the lowest bid, by no means does regulations state or clearly emphasize that the government, or need I say the governing body, be it Udicot, needs to actually accept the lowest bid. They need to accept the bid which best suits them and the project at hand. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the third bid.
The thing is, you're going to have glitches, right? Just like how you're going to have crime, you're going to have school violence to some degree. You're going to have these problems. You can't erase them. It's your response plan. How do you deal with them? And the reason why I bring that up is I go back to what I said earlier. My fear is when I have to deal with these government e-portals, what if I get a glitch? And then, you know, my transaction, which if it's involved with important government documents, doesn't go through properly, I don't get it properly, then I have to go into the office. Do they have the procedures in place to deal with these things? By allowing a vendor to give a late tender because of a glitch, I don't know if that's a policy I could agree with. I don't know. So if that's your plan, if you don't have a good way to treat it to ensure that the tender process remains fair and is unquestionable, because you're just kind of rolling with the punches in an informal way. No, I don't want to see that, because these are important things. And that, how it's treated, it will trickle down. The standards will trickle down. The expectation will trickle down. And it could affect us when we're having our day-to-day lives, when we're trying to deal with our passports, birth certificate, driver's license, national ID. I don't want to see these things be an issue as we try to digitize.
Anyway, Sean, as we take our Nescafe break, we're taking a Nescafe break.
Yes,
just chill out.
I don't have my Colombian blend this morning.
Maybe that's why he's a little cranky. I'll tell you what,
folks.
Go for your Nescafe Colombian blend this morning. We're going to break for news on the hour. And in the meantime, maybe, Sean, you could sip on a cup of coffee while playing Lotto. It's now $15.2 million. So, who knows? Anyway, folks, we break for news on the hour. And when we return, the phone lines will be open this morning. Stay tuned.
7 is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc, Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN, the Content Capital. All right, our phone lines are now open, 623-9376. If I'm not mistaken, I believe 623 is back up as well. So, yes, okay, so just 623-9376. That's the only phone line we're working at the moment. But the question we're asking you this morning is, do you think that students should be searched before entering a school compound. And when we say search, we meant their possessions, their bags and lunch kit, as well as their person, as a proactive measure. A bit of a controversial question, as my co-host pointed out earlier, and maybe a logistical problem as well.
Yeah.
But let's have your opinion to it, because I don't want school violence to continue, and I don't want students being expelled.
I think at the end of the day, we have to have the conversations like these, even if we think the answer is obvious, because we have to hash it out, because these need complex, detailed responses. We can't just say, well, we'll just do this and that's it, and blanket statements and one size fits all, and oh, yeah, we'll just expel them. Well, and then what? Do we expel all students that do this? You know, where do those students go? What is their futures, etc., etc. So, yeah, let's have the conversation.
We have a caller on the line with us from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Shah, Mr. Paul.
Good morning.
I believe students should be searched because we follow what happens in North America. Our borders are open. There are a lot of AR-15s. So what monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that, and it appears that the Ministry of National Security has not understood what is happening. No. My other critical point, and I don't want to stray away from this, is what I'm seeing in the Privy Council and what is happening in our Parliament. We have gone to argue a case, and one of the things I think is that QC Knox said in his argument, the law was passed, the Bail Act was passed, basically because they did not trust the judiciary. That is the headline of the newspaper. And I want to bring it back home. Last week in Parliament, we arguing to go to the CCJ.
Yes.
If we arguing to go to the CCJ and we're not confident in our judges, and our judges populate the CCJ benches with judges, what are we trying to do? Do you understand my argument?
I do.
Yes.
If we think we want to go CCJ, is our same judges going there? So that debate has already collapsed. If they make that temporary senator, I will tell them that it's a lot of garbage they're doing. I'll go and have a nice morning.
Thank you,
caller.
Now, in all fairness, our commentator, Karen Yunus-Seshara, indicated that one of the tenets would be that any cases involving Trinidad and Tobago, no judge from Trinidad and Tobago will sit on in the CCJ.
Yeah, but I think... I still think that the caller's point is valid, right?
No, I'm not saying it's invalid. I'm just clarifying.
I don't want to spend the time going through the explanation, but essentially, I think that some of the issues you could have with our local judges, you could still easily have with regional judges because they're in proximity, right? So depending on why you don't trust them, you're going to get some of these same issues. At least,
is that a fair statement?
No, well, okay. With regards to some of the things, distance matters. It's not that it's in England. It's not that it's the colonial masters. It's literally just because they're so far removed, it's more difficult for certain things to affect them than someone within proximity. I don't want to spell it out and go further than that. I'll just leave it there.
We have a caller online with us from Tunapuna. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. Yeah, I'm not hearing you on my phone.
Well, go on, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Go ahead, go ahead.
Make your point.
Right. In respect of the AG, I want to find out why the AG was disqualified. Not in detail. Why he was disqualified, not in detail. The reason for the AG being disqualified. That's one. And in respect of this violence that is taking place today, I feel that the media, including you all too, all the media in Trinidad and Tobago, must stop burying their head in the sand and let us deal with the violence in this country. We have half of the answer. The half of the answer we have, we hide in it. The half of the answer we have is who are committing these crimes. 95% to 98% of the people who perpetrators who committing these crimes, gentlemen, you all know of one ethnic group. Why are we hiding it? Do we really want to solve it? If we don't want to solve it, we will continue to hide it and trying to be balanced for this party and trying to be balanced for that party. We have to balance for no party. We have to talk and speak of the reality, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. No, I don't know if his numbers are correct.
I don't know where you got your statistics from, sir.
No, but I do think that there is some truth.
I don't know
to what he said.
Where you're getting your statistics, sir. And I'm in no position to say that you are being factual or at the same time what you're saying is an untruth. Simple. I am in no position to say that.
Yeah.
However, you need to be mindful how you're stating your point from the perspective that you're making your point, but in doing so, you went to a totally different tangent, a totally different avenue in relation, again, to one side and the other side or whatnot. So just bear that in mind. Again, I'm not saying your point is invalid. I'm saying that you don't have to go down the particular road that you were alluding to.
The thing is, though, while I think there is some truth with regards to the statistic, I don't think it's that high. I don't think it's that high. But there's some truth to it, right? On a practical level...
Are we in a position to say it's some truth?
When I say some, it's basically to say that I won't be surprised if the basic premise is true, that more criminal elements come from one demographic than another. That said, I don't necessarily think that on a practical level, it matters in the way that some people might think it matters. With regards to trying to find solutions, with regards to trying to find causes, I think the demographic itself is not really tied in as we would think by just stating the correlation to the cause, but rather the certain other factors that we do have to look at.
We have a caller on the line with us. I'll give you the opportunity to continue after, but I don't think pointing out the demographic will make much of a difference in terms of solving the issue. We have a caller on the line with us. Good morning, caller from Claxton Bay. Good morning, you're live.
Hi, good morning, people and Sean. When I have the thing, and you sell up, you know, we are people and love so many things out and in this church.
All right, caller, breaking up.
One stand out. It is loose. You understand?
What is loose?
Still trying to cover up things, you know. Still trying to cover up things because.
All right, caller, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, caller. I'm going to have to cut the call. Caller from Claxton Bay, we do apologize that we had to cut your call. You were breaking up too much. We couldn't hear you clearly at all. We heard bits of your point. So please call back in on the show. Hopefully I'll get a better signal and we can hear your entire point, because we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, because it was interesting what the caller said. The monster is loose. The state is trying to cover up things. I have some theories on what I think the state is trying to cover up, but I don't want to assume that what I think is what he thinks.
Caller on the line with us from Arima. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning.
Morning. Good morning. You're live.
Yes, the information given by the gentleman just now. Yes, about the
caller, don't listen.
Of the ethnicity of the people committing the crime.
Right. Caller, don't listen to your television. Listen to us through your phone.
And Keaton, you can't try to hide that. It's a fact. If you check the Jerusalem report, or the inspector of prisons report, they will show you that.
What?
Okay, thank you, caller.
I'm not entirely sure
so
what I'm assuming that he's
with regards to the
alluding-
demographics,
right,
of majority of crimes, and I'm hesitant to actually say it because I don't want to make that the focus of the topic. I'll say this because you see it in North America as well, right? And usually now you get into accusations and counter accusations of racism and racial whatever going either way. I think the main thing though is that yes, you could identify the statistics, right? And then you have to answer the question, why is the statistics so? Is it because of racism? Well, we don't have a white majority in TNT to have the same.
We have a caller. I just want to make this point. Caller from Arima, thank you. I didn't hear you too clearly, but if the explanation that my co-host is sharing, I'm not trying to hide any statistics or hide from any facts. I'm simply stating that in this position right now, I'm in no position to verify it. So I just need to be clear, because that is me doing my job.
I just want to say, we just need to do proper analysis as to why these statistics are so, to get to the real cause as to why these crimes are happening the way they're happening.
Call on the line with us from Chaguanas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I mean, it's good to get on. I hope you get back your 2 lines soon. But one of the first points I wanted to clarify is some time ago you say I mentioned opinion and call it fact. And you say I go on to say I of the opinion, so and so. Every time I do that, I always lay the groundwork as to why I have the opinion. And that is my problem with when you all do it. You just express opinion with no backing, no reason. You ask it, you don't get anything. And the second point is some time ago when we were talking about the base in Trinidad being removed.
The what, sir? Sorry?
The base, the American leaving. The point was made by your co-host here. That it was a small base. Why do he say that? He's here. Do you remember saying that our base was a small base?
I can't remember the context of why I said that, because I don't think it was just to say that it was a small base, but also the importance of the base. I believe I was basically saying it was not valuable after a certain point to keep the base. There was no need for America to keep the base post-World War II into the Cold War with the Soviet Union. Unless, and I do think I said this at the time, unless the influence of the Soviets or communists in Latin America and South America was significantly more, I guess the Americans eventually did not see the need. Because they have a base in Panama by the canal, I believe.
Caller.
No, wait.
Go ahead.
1 second. Right. Do you know that there were many bases that were kept open? Secondly, the Caribbean bases, half the money was spent in Trinidad, and that in Trinidad you had the Waterfield base, you had the Castlefield base, you had the Chagaramas where they had the submarines and things come in, you had in Cocorit where you had the airplanes, you had Runaway up in Toko as part of it, you had peace in Matura, right? And you even have more than that. So I just wanted to let you know.
I know that.
For whatever reason we were speaking on.
I gave the reason. I said Williams made the point that anytime they wanted back, they could get it. And that is the reason. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Yes, at the end of the day, it's not American. It's not territory.
I actually, all the bases that you called, I was aware of, but I don't think somebody has clarified that on the show before. So actually, I appreciate you calling in and giving information to the public, sharing it with them. Because, well, I haven't done that, and my co-host hasn't done that either. So thank you very much for that. But moving back to this topic about, one particular demographic committing the crimes and whatnot, again, let me stress, because people do not listen and people completely misinterpret. We are not hiding from what may be fact. I am just saying that, thank you very much to the caller from Arima for stating that it is in this report. Because now I will go and read this report and I can verify and say, okay, yes, that's true. But right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit blind about it, so I'm in no position to say yes or no.
Because I know that it also occurs in North America, in the United States. A correlation like that is not an explanation or reason, right? That doesn't tell us anything. It just tells us, okay, we need to look at this group to try to figure out why these statistics are coming up like this.
Yeah.
That's basically all it is, right? That doesn't tell us, oh, well, this is the root cause of crime. First of all, I thought that the first caller that brought up this topic was going to go somewhere else, basically with regards to the kingpins of crime and why we don't talk about that. You know, why we don't talk about the big hefes. We don't talk about street level stuff. Now, Karen talks about the big hefes, to be fair. And so we do talk about it on this show a bit. But I thought he was alluding to that. I did not expect him to go down this path. And ultimately speaking, look, I get it. It's low-hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing to point out. But again, you can't just do that with statistics.
I think that you're right in suggesting that it's the easiest thing to point out, because at the end of it all, I hear you. But in pointing out that particular statistics, how is that going to help us find the solution? You said it. You said it's not going to necessarily help us solve. Now, you probably might think, oh, well, then the police could target that demographic more, and then we're going to get into a whole situation about police being discriminatory and this and that and whatnot. So my thing is that even if that is a fact, right, how is that going to help us resolve the situation without causing, you know, more harm than good? I like to put it in that phrase.
I mean, it allows you to compare and contrast what are the social, economic, etc., factors that are contributing to crime, what is different, what is unique. But at the end of the day, it's not like, well, it's biological. No, that's not it. Because it's not as though all of one race are criminals, right? We just have a statistical anomaly on our society. And I think that if we looked to the United States, I think some of the reasons why are kind of similar, particularly when you have certain high-rise, low-cost housing, which seems to be very easy for gangs and drug dealers and drug lords to manipulate for territory, for control, for profit in that trade, right? So that's one of the things that I think we do share in common with the United States, that I somewhat am very much against the idea of those kind of high-rise, low-cost housing. But be that as it may, that's just one connection. That's not the be-all and end-all. It's a complex thing that you need to look at with a lot of different lenses, because motivations for crime are multifaceted, and they vary in not just the general background, but also the intensity.
Also, Professor from Chagonas, I do apologize, and I'm glad you raised it in relation to the two lines. I will make my point after, because this is the last call for the morning. A caller on the line with us from Point Fortin. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, last night on Inshan Ishmael's program, he mentioned that that pools and so on, the government building pools in these areas, like in the areas where PNN strongholds. And if we are claiming that one ethnic group, meaning the dark-skinned people, are the ones that are committing most of the crimes, the government is trying to infiltrate that by bringing programs to the people that will deter them from skylarking and committing crimes, you know, like putting them into sport, into swimming, into agriculture. You know, it's not a matter of ethnic bias. It's a matter of being sensible about what is happening.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. No, that's another way. It's another way of looking at it, because you know, if you ask both sides, what are their plans to help youth development and prevent youth criminals from emerging into society? One of the things that they've always spoken about is sports. So one of the things that we've heard from this particular government is sports programs within the community.
I mean, the previous administration as well.
Right. So most recently, the Ministry of Youth Development, in collaboration with the Ministry of Sport, they're hosting a football tournament, right? But I clearly remember on the platform back in 2020, the UNC Youth Arm, right? I was not there. I followed it. I had no choice. It's my job. But you have to clarify now, right?
Yeah.
The president of the Youth Arm indicated that they want to implement a community football program to help prevent crime and give youth another chance. They want to implement a community cricket program, right? This was the chairman of the Youth Arm speaking. And I kept thinking to myself, that's good. That's all well and good. But I'm constantly hearing about sports and sports and sports. I want it to be a bit more about sports. You have programs like YTEP, right? I want you to push for these programs, and I want you to try and get students to harness their skills.
You could say we're going to have sports, but then look at us, and again, people might not like comparisons we do with the politicians and Mayor Motley. Look at Jamaica if we want to do a comparison on sports. That's an island that does it correct, or at least as correct as I would think for a Caribbean island.
Jamaica?
Well, look, their track and field athletes are world class. Consistently.
No, just clarify. Just clarify what you mean.
Yeah, Jamaica is an example for other Caribbean islands. Granted, Jamaica has a larger population, etc., etc. But still, there are things that we could learn. And taking sports seriously is not just to have a tournament, but it's to take it seriously. It's kind of like the argument. I know we're running out of time. It's kind of like the argument in regards to the school and the arrests and the expulsion, etc. What next? You have a tournament, what next? What else is there to continue developing past the point that we've already reached?
Caller from Chigonas, just to clarify, yes, our phone lines have been down. They've been so for the last week and a half simply because of TSTT's inefficiencies and inability to actually get their job done. It's a very unfortunate, but I'm rather frustrated now. Imagine a business in the capital city. I mean, this happens with everybody, but a business in the capital city, TSTT cannot do their job right.
They sent a technician.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
The technician repaired one line.
By the way,
not repair the
one
other
line
lines.
that was disconnected. And when I say disconnected, that line, the company disconnected that line on purpose, so that line wasn't associated with them. Came and somehow connected it back. I don't know what's
that
going
was
on.
another line. Okay.
I don't know what's going on. But TSTT, please, our callers would like to call in. Our phone lines are jammed. And I'm publicly appealing to you this morning on Talking Point.
The wrong kind of jamming still.
The issue, please.
So I would just like to close off the show by saying from our first caller, yes, I have that same fear too. Monkey see, monkey do. Or in this case, student see, student do. So we know we have the guns in here. We know the TTPS is not taking it seriously. And I am afraid of the day when we see that example being taken up down here. I am afraid of the day. And it can happen.
Yeah, I tried to be serious, but I try, Anyway, folks, that's it for Talking Point today. Thank you very much to all our callers. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Remember,
our phone lines jamming still.
Today is a good day to have a good day.
Our phone lines jamming still, TSTT.
Courtesy TSTT. Bye-bye.